So, our first guest is a social entrepreneur and founder of the Taino gift store, Ojala Threads. She dreamt up a clothing line that babies could wear proudly. The designs reflect a Taino heritage, and her belief is that by choosing to outfit children, she is helping to remind the parents of their unique heritage while creating a stronger sense of community. She believes Ojala Threads is her love letter to her ancestors and descendants alike. Here now to share more, please welcome social entrepreneur and founder of Ojala Threads, Ramona Ferreyra. Hello and welcome.
Hi. Buenos días, Rhina.
Buenos dias. I should say hello and welcome back.
Yeah, thanks for having me again.
Of course. Oh my gosh. I want to start off by congratulating you on sustaining a small business.
Yeah, thank you. It's definitely we saw each other way before COVID. And it's been quite the experience being in business through all of this.
Yeah, I would imagine so. I mean, really, anybody who's been in business, who was in business pre-COVID or even started pre-COVID, to be able to live through COVID and now sustain in post-COVID, all the pre's, post, and and everything is alleged anyway because I don't know if it's completely over. But the idea is that I know when we first had you on, you were starting out. What I didn't share was a little bit of background on your origins of like working at the Gap, Baby Gap, and of course studying criminal law, criminal justice or something, right?
Yeah.
And then somehow combining the two, inspired by your nephew to actually dive into making sure that you're making a difference with the next generation,
Yeah,
right?
exactly. Yeah, so I actually have a master's in diplomacy and military studies, and I was living out in Hawaii for about 10 years. I studied diplomacy, military studies, and national security. So I had a career path where I intended to work with the federal government. I was with the FBI and then the Department of Justice, Department of Defense, and I was really focused on building community relations to help disaster risk reduction take place and doing outreach to the Arab, Muslim, and Sikh community to ensure that hate crimes in those communities were being reported properly. I ended up, my illness, which I was born with, just started to escalate over time, making it difficult for me to hold a traditional job. And this idea, like you said, came to me when my nephew was near death at like 4 months old. So Ojalá really combines my love for my indigenous identity, and it's a recognition that it took me a very long time to understand, that we are indigenous, that the Taino people are still here, that we're practicing in many ways our spirituality and our language. And, we believe that when someone passes, the ancestors wait for them in a sacred cave called Soraya. And I wanted him to know who they were. And that led to me saying, well, I can't find a good product that does this. So let me just make one. And now the shop has expanded to adults, to books and gift items.
I was scrolling through your website, and I also saw that you have like partnerships with certain individuals, right? Because
Yeah.
I saw the book, "The War Against All Puerto Ricans" was also being offered there, and so I think that was also very smart because now you're designing a community online, right? And so you said something that I kind of wanted to revisit because based on your illness, you identify as being disabled. So can you share a little bit more about that? Because
Yeah.
you just shared that it limited the I guess your commitment to certain work or what that. So I'm very curious to know what that meant, what that is.
Yeah, so I suffer from non-radiographic spondyloarthritis. It's a really sexy word that means that basically your spine can begin to fuse over time, and it affects your nerves and pain. So I'm in pain all day, every day. I do, yoga, I do physical therapy. I'm on really severe and like strong medication to reduce the impacts of it. But it just got to the point where holding, a job that would be 40 hours a week was impossible. With my medical appointments and my physical therapy, it was hard to find an employer that could accommodate that. So once I moved back to New York, I really wanted to find something that was flexible. And I also didn't want, I feel that I was blessed to be able to learn the things that I learned and to develop the skills that I developed. So to me, being first generation college in my family, first generation American, and then making it all the way to like Harvard's Kennedy School, I was like, what do I do with that side of my brain? So whatever business I created, I knew that I wanted to have a corporate responsibility strategy.
Right.
And that's what Ojala has developed. I've tapped into different campaigns,
Mm-hmm.
primarily that affect the Bronx. So the Close Rikers campaign, I'm on the neighborhood advisory council for that and negotiated a lot of the investments that came with the new jail. On the Half Price Metro Card program. So I
Mm-hmm.
make sure, I volunteer my time to make sure that it's funded regularly and expanded regularly. And then I started something called Save Section 9, which is an organization that now works nationally to save public housing. Without public housing, I wouldn't be able to, live. I would
Right.
be, unhomed. And, at the national level, the federal government since the Obama era has been demolishing and privatizing public housing. And here in New York, we're being threatened with a demolition, the first one in a long time in the Chelsea area, which is not really justified by repair needs. It's simply a land grab. And there's a community there that's fighting really hard to stop that proposal. So I educate and I empower the tenants to understand policy and also to then negotiate with their congresspeople towards fixing public housing and expanding public housing.
Wow, that's lovely. It's lovely that you're able to balance the two out, right? And somehow merge them. So, how does Ojala contribute to this? I know you are, but how do you incorporate it?
So I often tell people when we meet, most of my sales come from pop-up events. So I go to all the boroughs, and while I'm tabling, I had an event yesterday in Sunnyside, Queens. I often tell people, the goal for Ojala is to ensure that people know that the Taino people are still here. And then the sales that I make it possible for me to volunteer on these campaigns. Oftentimes, that kind of work is just not paid, right? When you
Right.
volunteer to save public housing, no one's walking around like, hey, here's a paycheck. So every single sale allows me to give my time to these causes.
Well, allow me to acknowledge you through your Native American name, which is Guatu Ke Ini Inaru.
Thank
And,
you.
and and yes, and I introduce you as Ramona because that's the name you've been carrying for a while. However, you do identify through your indigenous name, so I want to acknowledge you
Yeah. Thank
with
you.
that. Yes, and on that note, let's talk a little bit about the symbolisms that you use on the clothing.
Yeah.
Yeah, because I know you've got the water symbol, you've got the Atabe symbol, and I'm focusing primarily on the onesies, but it seems like since the last time we've met, you've expanded into other items. So shall
Yeah.
we share with the audience?
Yeah. So I'm actually wearing our Taino hoodie today.
Can
And
you pull it up a little bit so I
yep.
can see it? Aha,
So
nice.
I wanted to do something that spoke to varsity and the college experience so that our children could start getting used to what that looks like, right? And my nephew, who I had custody of in Hawaii and is now about to go into college.
Wow, brava.
Yeah, he has this very like I would say finessed attitude about the college experience where he's like, well, I don't need to go Ivy. I need to find the right fit for me. And I want our children to know, right, and our peers to know that this varsity lettering, which is very synonymous with these Ivy League schools,
Can you show it again just so that we know
doesn't always,
it's beautiful?
and
Uh-huh.
it doesn't always include, the non-traditional ideas that folks have, right, and the entrepreneurship passion that we have, especially like in the Dominican community. And then the symbol that's on it is actually bebe.
Mm-hmm.
So I also try to introduce folks to new symbols. Bebe represents how we used to swaddle our babies at birth. And then when we passed, we would swaddle our dead in the fetal position as well. And then one of my favorite symbols is bujiri, which is this one. So bujiri is actually the depiction of
Okay, the other way. Yeah,
the
there
way.
you go.
So bujiri is actually the bat symbol. And it's very special because our creation story says that we were actually born from one of three caves in the Dominican Republic. And the bats had to make an arrangement with the sun and ask for permission to go out at night. But if you got caught in the morning, each bat would get turned into stones. And then the sun eventually realized that that was very mean and it wasn't sustainable, right? Like, not everything could become a mountain. So the sun decided to turn them into different things. And that's how we got our trees, our flowers, and eventually humans. So I like to tell our kids, we are the original Batman or Batgirl. And it's something that really makes them, feel pride. And they're like, wait, we were bats. So every sale is like an opportunity to share with folks, like you said, our symbols, which are sacred, and then to make children really familiar with them so that they recognize in that symbol, something that's been here for 4,000 years and is that a part of them and their story.
I think that's so important too. And so before we go, just share the importance of what it means to even learn about one's history from their ancestry.
So growing up, I was told that we were extinct. And there was always a void in me because I felt a certain connection to land. I felt that some of our food and the way that we make casabe, or the way that we make mama juana, which I offer for the holidays, there seemed to be like a magical spell around this, right? And I couldn't figure out what it was. And when I finally read A People's History of the United States, it said, that Taino was extinct and it was gone. And then I was like, wait, but that's my people and I'm still here. So like, what does that mean? And, from an academic perspective, because I'm a bit of a nerd, it's been proven that children that know their ancestry and that understand their heritage are more likely to succeed at any task and to find success academically and financially, right? So every item that I offer is a way to really tell us who we are fully and to look at, what is the language that we use? How do we speak to each other? Our tribe, the Iguayagua tribe, published its second edition of our dictionary. And this is a huge undertaking, right? So our cacique Jorge
Uh-huh.
Baracay Esteves, this has been his lifelong work,
And
and then
that's available on your website?
and it's available on our website, right? And it's
Beautiful.
the first time that the language is being reconstructed under the assumption that the Spaniards never interrupted our development. So we're looking at how the entire Caribbean would have meshed its words. And now I have younger folks that are writing rap, that are writing poetry, that want to write stories in this language.
Everyone, Ramona Ferreyra, or as she likes to be called, Guatu Ke Ini Inaru. Once again, social entrepreneur, founder of Ojala Threads. For more, you can visit ojalathreads.com and be sure to check her out on Instagram at Ojala Threads. All right, stay tuned. There's more open when we return.